Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical. I hope the week's gone well. Whizzes by. Goodness, this morning I was driving and there's at one point I come off a kind of highway, I'm crossing, the traffic's coming against me, and I'm turning right into the back of a place called Runda. And I was indicating from way back, and suddenly this lorry overtook me from the right-hand side and missed me by a whisker. And I just thought to myself, and I was with Hannah, we both looked at each other and realised how close we were. It's pretty frightening. It's chaos on the roads, particularly around where I live, which is the Kiambu Road. It's like Mad Max at times. Macro thoughts, world equity markets. This is the performance so far in 2017. The Nairobi All-Share, which is a laggard, is actually doing slightly, marginally better than they're reporting in that graph. Look at this from the World Economic Forum. Farewell oil, hello tech. The world's 5 most valuable companies in 2006 and 2016. Pretty extraordinary. And just to add to this discussion, especially in light of the possibility China may be labelled a currency manipulator, gives you an idea of the currency and the trade surplus, which are obviously the two issues for Trump. China's fourth quarter GDP grew at 6.8% on the year, beating estimates. A small acceleration in the fourth quarter, which I think chimes with the kind of economic data we've been seeing. Trump government in China, facts are clear. Interpretation of root cause is the problem, says David Inglis again. And as I said on the 14th of November, Trump has already indicated China as the main adversary, and that to triangulate China, the US needs Russia on its side and not on China's. Home thoughts, let me start with Scott Fitzgerald. And I like large parties, they're so intimate. At small parties, there isn't any privacy. I've discovered the library at the Bethesda Club, and it's rather good, and I picked up a book which was written by a doctor. He crosses the continent from Zanzibar to Timbuktu at the ground level. And, it's really rather good. New scientist, seals hunt down hidden fish by sensing their breath in the sand. Sounds kind of sinister, doesn't it? The secret of Namibia's fairy circles may be explained at last. In local myths, the bare red circles fringed with grass are footprints of the gods, or patches of land once poisoned by the breath of a subterranean dragon. That probably sounds a lot better than the actual explanation. Since fairy circles became the focus of scientific study, researchers have proposed a host of ways by which the bare discs of soil may fall. One idea points the finger at underground termites that engineer the landscape above their heads. From a stock market perspective, Namibia came out top in Africa, returning 34.13% to investors in 2016. That was before an appreciation in the Namibian currency as well. Before President Obama leaves office, make sure you've seen his tango skills. He rather enjoyed himself dancing that tango, I must admit. And, really, it's quite sad, actually, isn't it? I think a lot of people can criticize him. I criticize him for the drone assassination program, other things when I think he might have been braver. But really, like I said before, he's like a train. He was on a set of tracks, they go in one direction, he could speed it up, he could slow it down. He navigated that with some aplomb. I think he was unfairly blamed about Syria because that chemical warfare tripwire was set by the opposition. It was clear. I think he saw that if Damascus fell to a bunch of head choppers, it was going to be a nightmare scenario. So he did the right thing there as well. From the economy, I think, look, he didn't reform it root and branch, he didn't chuck out the banksters, he didn't prosecute them, but at the end of the day, US power is so intertwined with the banking sector, he couldn't afford to. And in many other respects. And what I liked best about him was his ability to lift people's chins up. And I think in that regard, he'll be sorely missed. The message is not exactly the medium, but above all, the ultimate speed of its propagation, Paul Virilio. The edge, there is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over, Hunter S. Thompson. I saw this photograph from David Nakamura. Just saw Marine leave station outside West Wing, meaning POTUS has left too. Offices are empty. Obama photos are off the walls. So it is. Haaretz.com have got a close look at Trump's inauguration day. I like the photograph. This is another photograph of Trump saluting after landing in DC on his first Air Force flight. 14th of November, I wrote, "Here comes President Trump. He won the election, all ends up, and for the first time since 1928, won the presidential vote, the Senate, the House, and will decide the Supreme Court's composition." It's a pretty extraordinary scenario that has unfolded. It is breathtaking, especially when you consider that Trump was an insurgent candidate and his Make America Great Again movement similarly an insurgent movement. Confounded the pollsters, mimicked the Brexit result, and it's clear to me we're watching a populist wave or zeitgeist which has swept the United Kingdom and the US, and as Italy, this is before Matteo Renzi lost that referendum. France, where Marine Le Pen apparently today is in the lead, is the most popular French candidate. And in the Netherlands, where Geert Wilders looks as if he's got the wind in his sails. Comic-turned politician Beppe Grillo, co-founder of the Five Star Movement, said this is the deflagration of an epoch. It is the apocalypse of this information system, of the TVs, of the big newspapers, of the intellectuals, of the journalists. And this is another important point. Traditional media has lost its position of control. It's been upended by the internet, which allowed insurgent politics to broadcast over the top. I said I thought Trump would play a Ronald Reagan game, and it seems that's the way US-Russia relations are headed, to some kind of big flagship nuclear arms deal. And then I said, from an economic and trade perspective, I expect Trump to be much more aggressive with China. And those two diagrams I showed you, the surplus, speak to that point. I still can't get over this photograph of Trump tweeted, "Writing my inaugural address in Winter White House, Mar-a-Lago, 3 weeks ago, looking forward to Friday." Came across an article in Counterpunch, "Nothing is real when reality TV programming masquerades as politics," by John W. Whitehead. Yet, as John Lennon reminds us, nothing is real, especially not in the world of politics. He is the master of counter-reality programming, said Politico magazine. Indeed he is. George Soros, who's very outspoken, calls President-elect Trump a con man and would-be dictator. Convinced Trump will fail because ideas are contradictory. They are contradictory. Europe is in process of disintegration, as I said previously. People in the UK live in denial, not sure about that. They just have made a decision. They're going to stand by it. A trade war can easily spiral into a real military conflict. Trump's Homeland Security team likely to emphasize facial recognition, biometric surveillance, including threat detection algorithms, facial recognition technology, and an expansion of verifiable identity solutions, both in real life and online. Le Pen moves into the lead in French race, gaining support in France, and has taken the lead in a major survey of voters' intentions for the first round of the presidential election. Marine Le Pen, of course, supports Russia's annexation of Crimea. She's already said that and keeps saying it. And as I said on the 5th of December, at this moment, President Putin has Fortress Europe surrounded. He is the intellectual father of the new zeitgeist that propelled Brexit, Le Pen, the Five-Star Movement in Italy, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, Vladimir Putin. Sweden's UN Twitter handle tweeted the UN Security Council unanimously adopts resolution confirming Barrow as legitimate and democratically elected president of Gambia. Will of the people must be respected. And I think, this isn't important. It's a small country, tiny little sliver of a thing. Very small population, popular amongst tourists. But at the same time, I think, he lost the election, and how post-election in such a scenario is handled is key, because, as I've said previously, we're in a very dynamic environment when that demographic dividend is being enfranchised and can vote for the first time, and the sheer numbers of them is dwarfing everybody else, and therefore they are actually holding the political future in their hands. Mexico extradites drug kingpin El Chapo Guzman to the US, an extraordinary fellow, always seems to escape. And then this caught my attention. Ad explores fashion's role in a police state, Adidas. Bloomberg US Economic Expectations Index just rose to its highest level since 2002. That's high. The dollar, this is a longer term chart, have a look at that. These are more interesting in trying to help us understand where we stand in the dollar cycle. I think Trump essentially is normalizing interest rates because he wants to spend more money from the fiscal side, so you can have high interest rates which will be supportive of the dollar. Currency markets, euro dollar 106.83, dollar index 101.03, Japanese yen 114.64, Swiss franc 10053, the pound 123.52. I'm constructive about the pound. Aussie 0.7558, Indian rupee 68.085, South Korean won 1171.25. Brazil real 3.1965, barely changed now since that very big rate cut. 18.9045, that's the Egyptian pound. And the rand, about which I'm very bullish, is at 13.51. Commodity markets, gold again pushing higher, 1207.76. My goodness, I must say, I never expected it to come above 1200. Crude oil, last trading at $52.25. My thinking there. Emerging markets, the so-called bromance trade ignited by Trump's pledge to cozy up with Vladimir Putin. Russian stocks have been on a tear, just like Putin's parabolic rebound. And indeed, he's proven himself a geopolitical grandmaster. He's kind of the lord of all he surveys at the moment, in some shape or form. Vietnam stocks could hit a 10-year high in 2017, says Bloomberg. The Kuwait Stock Exchange has risen 12% this year, more than double the advance in the MSCI Frontier Emerging Markets Index. Jammeh has ruled Gambia since 1994. According to Bloomberg, is seeking a security detail and clearance to take his assets. And he's negotiating stepping down with Mauritania's President Mohamed Abdelaziz as the regional forces mass on the West African country's borders to force him to cede power to Adama Barrow, who won an election last month. Jammeh, who has ruled Gambia since 1994, is seeking a security detail and a clearance to take his assets, the regional official said, asking not to be identified because a public announcement has not been made. His request to stay in his home village of Kanilai has been denied. Of course it would. Keeping him in situ in country would be a disaster. They said it wasn't clear where he will go. In the new Gambia, what you know will be more important than who you are, says the newly inaugurated President Barrow. Great statement. This is the football stadium where Barrow's inauguration was supposed to have taken place, but because of the abnormal situation, it happened in Dakar. That photograph was David Pilling. President of the Gambia, His Excellency Barrow, with his two wives at the swearing-in ceremony in Dakar. That was yesterday. I was writing about this trend change of which Gambia seems to be the lodestar, and I was saying, a Old leadership might not move aside easily, and this is one example of that, but make no mistake, it's in the departure lounge. And then that was a piece I was writing when I was quoting a fellow in 2014 in Ouagadougou who said, after the Arab Spring, this is the Black Spring. The Gambian embassy, this is where President-elect Adama Barrow was sworn in. Africa is a very non-linear place, but recent elections surely signaling a trend change is at hand. As I said, the demographic bulge is now arriving at voting age. This is that moment. Its importance cannot be gainsaid. Gunfire in Ivory Coast port as mutiny spreads, but then it seems to have calmed down. Juba Radio reporting that the Moroccan king is expected to visit Juba. And then an interesting report by International Crisis Group, forced out of towns in the Sahel, African jihadists go rural. Armed jihadist groups have developed a dangerous new strategy after being chased out of most major towns they once held in Africa's Sahel, the vast expanse of arid, sparsely populated brushland that crosses the continent along the southern edge of the Saharan Desert. Rather than trying to hold towns or urban districts, these groups, which include Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, the Masina, Al-Murahibitun, are using bases in the countryside to strike at provincial and district centers. Africa Confidential has a very interesting in-depth thought piece, Global Shocks, Local Differences, smaller countries outpacing giants such as Nigeria and South Africa, but progress on regional integration and industrialization is lacking, they're saying. Then they're saying economic conditions in Africa this year might be best symbolized by the new railway boom. Over a century after the failure of a colonial plan for a route between Cairo and Cape Town, today's routes are less ambitious. Instead of colonial expansion, they are a belated attempt at integrating the continent's 54 national economies and fostering intracontinental trade. Railways are usually built by Chinese engineering firms, whose costings and financing deals undercut all rivals for now. Yet China's economic slowdown, diminished appetite for African commodities, is held up as a leading cause of lackluster growth across Africa over the past 2 years. Foreign Minister Wang Yi has been touring Africa in the new year, assuring governments of Beijing's continuing commitment to the continent in a period of growing nationalism and protectionism elsewhere. He's promising more railways. The latest on offer is a rehabilitation of the legendary Tanzania-Zambia line. The Tanzan, or Tazara, was legendary because it seemed to have no commercial logic. This has changed with Tanzania's recent fast economic growth, spurred by the exploitation of its gas and mineral reserves. Wang also breezed through Abuja, telling Nigerians about China's offer of a $40 billion plan for more railways, roads, ports, and power stations. To a recession-hit country, this offered some relief. For President Buhari's government, the main question is how quickly the finance can be tapped. Its budget this year is to bridge a financing gap of around $10 billion. That'll be an interesting development. Then talking about East Africa, saying Ethiopia and East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania are among the continent's best performing economies, growing on the back of higher agricultural exports, planned oil and gas production, and a more integrated regional market. Meanwhile, the big corporate investors still have Africa on their radar screens, although their strategy has changed from the commodity boom years of average growth rates of over 5% to a much more discriminatory approach based on identifying the highest and most sustainable yields in an increasingly diverse economic landscape. My piece that I wrote, Sub-Saharan Africa Finding Opportunities in Disequilibrium, refers to a lot of these matters. Most of Africa's top 10 economies in 2017 are non-resource dependent. So, the lower oil price has been bad for Angola, bad for Nigeria, but it's been good for these other countries. So you've got to bear that sort of pendulum, or whatever you care to call it, in mind, particularly if the oil price rallies higher, which I don't think is going to happen. Moving on, Germany has a Marshall Plan for Africa, apparently. The link is on the website, Rich Wrap-Ups. This is a report in Deutsche Welle. But interesting points are being made there. It's caught up in the migration issue as well. Investors started to factor in Pravin Gordhan's fight back against rogue policy making last year, and I think that's what led the Rand to end the year plus 11%. And that's why I'm bullish about the Rand, actually. I don't think President Zuma's brilliant idea, cunning plan of putting his ex-wife in as president as a proxy is going to work here. As long as I'm in my position, I have the confidence that the South African president is Pravin Gordhan, but he said it could end with one phone call. I don't think it could right now. I think he's secured his own position. One Zuma to another Zuma, asked The Economist, as I was saying. South African all shares up 4.44% this year. Very strong start to the year. Dollar versus Rand. As I said, I'm bullish to the Rand. Have a look at this chart. It looks like a wedge formation, which means the Rand could strengthen very sharply through the bottom. Egyptian pound, 18.9045, seems an equilibrium level for now. I like this photograph. Some cool pictures of Nigeria's President Buhari. Africa's biggest bank chasing Nigerian deals after oil slump. First Rand, seeking an acquisition of mid-sized lender in the continent's most populous nation, is also considering one other target after ending talks with two lenders because of difference over price. Deals crop up, and the tougher it gets with the price, oil price, we get approached. The government, if they had to, would intervene to prop up the banking system. It depends on how big the hole is. In my view, the possibility of a Nigerian naira devaluation is certain. The question is only around the timing. And it will be like an Egyptian-style devaluation in my view. And I think if President Buhari thinks China is going to underwrite an overvalued naira, I think he's mistaken. Nigerian all share down 2.5% this year. The new president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, is saying all the right things in my view, except for, of course, that plagiarized acceptance speech, which I think he must be regretting. Ghana looks primed to move from a policy-making haircut to a policy-making premium. I think that's bullish on a purely linguistic analysis basis. I like what he's saying. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 3.64% this year. There's a buy. Tanzania's strong hand needs more adroit touch to nurture investment, writes David Christensen. And this is about the anti-corruption drive that apparently is causing a lot of friction. Mozambique's default, this is The Economist. This is the first sub-Saharan African sovereign to default in 5 years. And The Economist is remembering that conference, which I keep referring to, in 2014. Mozambique seemed a good place to host the IMF's Africa Rising conference. The economy was buoyant, having grown by about 7% a year for a decade. Offshore gas promised riches. Investors were optimistic, so much so that in 2013, they snapped up $850 million of bonds issued by a state-owned tuna fishing company with temptingly high yields. We know those tuna bonds and what's happened. They're trading at 55. If they go around 30, if they get on with a 30 handle, they're a screaming buy. Africa Visual Data, top 15 destination countries in Africa by number of FDI projects. This is EY. Estimated daily per capita expenditure in subnational regions of Nigeria, Uganda, Tanzania, Malawi. That's SIEPR. Population distribution in Africa. I thought this was interesting. Have a look at this. And it shows you that there's a bulking up effect. That's been happening. I like this photograph. Camel train to Berahile. Coming to Kenya, and this report is being denied according to The Nation, but I'm sure it isn't because they do need to raise the money. There's a report on Bloomberg saying Stan Chart and Citigroup have been hired to raise $800 million for a Kenya loan. 4 international banks mandated to raise $800 million in syndicated loans. Citigroup, Standard Bank Group, Standard Chartered PLC and Rand Merchant Bank. Money to be available by February. We will let you know when we do the syndication, said the Treasury Secretary Henry Rotich. They need that money, and I think it's a smart move to go to the syndicated loan market in this current environment. The shilling finding support here, 103.84. Nairobi All Share eked out a 0.02% gain. Yesterday it's down 6.85% this year and 0.21% above a 42-month low from 2 sessions ago. NSE 20 posted a fresh 2008 low. It's down 8.2% this year. Have a look at this NSE 20 index from Kenya Wall Street to give you a context of where it is right now. There's blood on the streets, and that's when you actually look and pick up stock. This is that kind of environment. A brutal start to 2017 is what I called it. And I quoted Baron Rothschild, the time to buy. It's when there's blood in the street.